Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to First Time Fantasy. My name is Rick, and I'm here with my co-host Arj. What's up?
What's up, everyone?
All right, so today we are talking AFC East, and I'm gonna lead off here. First off with the Dolphins. So if you haven't figured out already, Ryan Fitzpatrick is no longer a Dolphin, so you got that going for him. First player up on my list though is going to be Myles Gaskin. He's pretty much their lead back at this point. I believe they still have a few of the guys from last year with who was that backup Salvin Ahmed or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I
he
think he's
was pretty
still
good for a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting, but haven't really heard much about him during the off season here, so
he
don't
he
really.
is he's their third on their depth chart.
Yeah, okay, that's why I remember sticking out because I looked at the depth chart and I was like, oh yeah, I thought he had an okay season, but nonetheless, I don't think Gaskin really has a lot of competition with them, assuming he stays healthy. He did miss a few games last year. He only played in 10 games, ended up with 142 rushing attempts, which isn't too bad. If he ends up playing whole season, you probably see him with 200 plus attempts, and that probably gives him enough volume to really be relevant. So I'm kind of expecting the same for this year. If he can stay healthy, maybe he can kind of be like an Antonio Gibson type almost. I know he's really projected for like a breakout season, Gibson that is, but I think Gaskin can probably slot into that offense pretty nice, especially with the younger quarterback in Tua. If Gaskin gets to see some of that receiving work that he did last year, that could really boost him for PPR leagues, of course. The only real drawback he had was he didn't really score many touchdowns. He had 3 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving, which altogether isn't terrible, but you'd like to see those numbers increase a little bit. And like I said, with him missing some games, that obviously drives those numbers down a little bit. And I think Gaskin, for where he's going in drafts, around, I believe it's running back 20 ish, 23 actually, with an ADP of about 70. I think it's pretty accurate. He's not someone for me that really jumps out off the page, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that guy's going like later, and that's maybe it's like good value, or if he slips a little bit here and there, depending on your draft. Um, but you also have other guys that are going around him, someone like a Damian Harris who got like a pretty nice boost that we'll be talking about in a little bit here, that is actually going after him. But I think Gaskin would still be a solid running back, and he's on a young team. They definitely have some potential, which kind of brings me to their receivers. Uh, I didn't really pick one specific receiver because I don't know which one of these guys is actually going to be fantasy relevant. They go and draft Waddle. They already have Devontae Parker, and then they sign Will Fuller in the offseason. So I think if, depending on how their offense works, all three of these guys can easily be relevant. Parker kind of had a breakout season in 2019, kind of showed some of the potential that he has, and then kind of quickly regressed last season. Although, watching that Miami team last year when they're bouncing between quarterbacks, and they kind of seemed, and then like I mentioned with the Gaskin injury, having their top running back go down, it's not too shocking. Without, maybe if they had, I don't know, that Tua was there a season earlier or something where he's got some extra playing time under his belt, Parker could have had a more consistent year, but it wasn't too bad by any means, but definitely some regression from his breakout in 2019. And then, of course, Fuller in Texas is always known as their deep threat. So, let's just say Fuller's the deep threat. Parker kind of gets his usual work. And then Waddle's kind of supposedly going to be their slot guy. He played a lot of slot in college. I believe he took about 70% of the snaps he lined up at the slot. So I think Waddle could probably carve out a pretty nice slot, nice like work there for him. Um, it it's tough to pick any of these guys beyond like before round 10 for me, and I believe all of them are going pretty late in drafts, and I'm not even sure if of the three, I believe Parker is being drafted the latest. I could be wrong, but I'm
I
pretty
think so.
sure. Yeah, like I think I grabbed Waddle in one of my 2 drafts, and I got him pretty late, which I was pretty. I think of the three personally, I think he's going to be the best if he can actually If he does get some of that slot work, that'll be good for him. I don't think Fuller is going to end up being there, and same with Parker. Those guys might be more to the outside, and Fuller, like I said, already known for his kind of deep threat from when he was in Houston. Now, of course, for Fuller, you're working with a much different quarterback. So for him, to me, it seems more of like, I mean, like literal, like this is boom or bust, like for sure, because you don't have Deshaun Watson throwing the ball to you deep anymore. Tua probably needs a little bit more time to really give him like the proper, like numbers. Like I just don't think that Tua is going to be able to do the same thing Deshaun Watson used to do, and Fuller, even in Houston, was already known as boom or bust. So I would say probably stay away from Fuller and look for Parker or Waddle. Personally, I'm more of on the Waddle train there. So I don't really have anything about Tua. I've already referenced him a few times. We got to see him in like a limited capacity last year with them bouncing between him and Fitzpatrick. Like they were trying to win games, which is great, but they were trying to bring along the rookie quarterback at the same time. And obviously this season he has like the keys to their offense. So I think he's going to need like another season to really be like a solid fantasy player. Their team should be pretty exciting to watch, I think. They'll have some interesting games. But, maybe we see them. I think they had like 5 wins last year. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw the same thing again. Maybe they get an extra 1 or 2 here or there. But fantasy wise, probably look for Gaskin, and beyond that, maybe Waddle late flyer. But I don't think you're going to need to put a lot of draft capital into any of these guys, which is kind of nice. So look for them. These Parker and Fuller probably definitely more waiver ads throughout the season. Obviously there's going to be receivers that go down. So far, and especially with us recording at this point, there's already guys with COVID, teams with COVID issues. There's already been injuries to receivers, running backs. So I think they're going to be better to grab off waivers during the season to plug into your roster when there's a good defensive matchup for them.
What? How many wins did you say they had?
I think did they have 4 or 5?
The Dolphins?
Yeah.
They had 10.
Oh, what? Hold up. I was looking at...
I think you're forgetting how bad that division is outside of Buffalo, or was.
I'm probably still thinking of the Texans when I was talking about it earlier.
Probably.
Yeah. I was about to say, hold up, wait a second.
I looked him up as soon as you said that. I was like, I'm pretty sure, because I remember Tua himself won at least 5.
All right, never mind. Dolphins are going to be great. Grab Tua as your QB1. Look for their receivers in those middle rounds. You're gonna want to jump on them real quick.
So I have a few different thoughts. I actually really like Fuller for a few reasons. But one, I mean, you can get him so late because of the 1-game suspension. Like, I only got him in one of the leagues. I was shooting for him in all of them, but people were grabbing him a little early. And then I don't remember exactly when I got him. It was pretty late. So just sitting on my bench. He's not one of my top 3 wide receivers, so he's going to be a steal. I think Waddle is a great sleeper. Like you said, plays in the slot. Going to be a nice dump for Tua. Tua is going to be capable. He's going to do well, not from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah.
I have different thoughts on Gaskin. I think he's going to see a reduced role, partially because he has some extra weapons in Fuller and Waddle. And Malcolm Brown, is that who went there?
Oh, yeah, Malcolm Brown. Yeah.
And he's a receiving back. And I also just think that Gaskin's not that good.
See, I'm not fully like there. Now, I do think Malcolm Brown could end up seeing some of the goal line work, which would probably be an issue. So even if I think Gaskin gets majority of the attempts, but I don't know. The real question is how many is he going to get per game? Like that's the real question. Even if he doesn't get even if they kind of switch the receiving to Brown, I think Gaskin's still going to see some of it. Probably not enough to actually matter even for PPR. And then it just really comes down to how much volume he gets, which is why I think like where he's being drafted is like appropriate. Although
yeah, I agree with that.
Like there is still guys below him that I mean, Darrell Henderson's actually going below him as well. So, like, I don't know that I'd prefer Gaskin over Henderson, but it's a pretty big difference when it comes to, like, where they're being drafted. and I don't fully like trust Tua enough in that offense for that, for like Gaskin to also be able to carve out his own role. Like, I don't know. It's they, they're not like full like boom or bust as like an offense, but I could definitely see some games where they like crash and burn and they're like playing from behind, so they have no choice. And I mean, the receivers will come into play there, but you can't always predict that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that we see all too often where a guy has a good half of a season and then people assume he's going to be really good and take him as their RB2, and then
Yeah, I
it's a
mean,
mistake.
because you can get them at like 70, if you, depending on, most people probably already have two running backs by then. So yeah, if you already have two, I don't think he's a bad, he has the upside to be an RB2,
Mhm.
but I think for him, I feel like you can say that about a lot of guys, but I think with him, it's a little bit more of like, well, he could, but he probably won't, like, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And I think it is mostly like if he can also stay healthy. Like his stats weren't bad, but it really is like that 10 game sample size. Like there isn't too much more.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree, and that's why this whole team is iffy, just
Yeah.
because you don't really know how Tua is going to play from a fantasy perspective, and that directly affects everybody else, except for, I mean, it still affects Gaskin, but he can kind of have some value on his own,
Yeah.
and but if Tua crumbles, then the whole
It kind
team
of
does.
kind of reminds me of like Broncos a little bit, where it's a similar thing where you have like decent guys at each position,
Hmm.
but they're all just like really questionable. Like, do you actually want to draft? Obviously they had questions with the quarterback, but do you actually want to draft Melvin Gordon, or do you want to risk it on the rookie running back in Williams? And kind of same goes for the receivers of like, at least with them, you could easily draft like Cortland Sutton or Jerry Judy and not really be
Yeah,
too broken up with that. But with Miami, then it's like, well, they have a solid three guys, but who's gonna be? It's kind of like Dallas in a sense where they have three good receivers, but who's gonna be like the main guy there? So
hmm,
Waddle being a rookie, but maybe getting some of the slot work and makes it a little bit easier for Tua. Like there is a lot of things that there's good reasons why he could be a good pick late, but then Fuller might have a game where he snags three touchdowns and scores you 40 points or something like that, and he'll
yeah.
be great for like a week, and maybe you get like one more of those, but that's kind of it.
There also is still the possibility of Deshaun Watson going to the Dolphins.
I mean, I guess that's a possibility. I mean, I know we'll be talking Texans next week or on next episode whenever we record that, but I just I don't fully understand those rumors. I mean, I guess if they can send enough back to the Texans, but all the speculation I hear is that Texans want so many picks and players that I
And
mean,
they and even
Miami's
with the
like
legal
basically,
troubles, they deserve it
oh
because
yeah, I mean
Watson
that's
is
like
phenomenal.
that's a whole nother thing on top of it, but I feel like Miami's already like partially through like their rebuild. Like they have their quarterback, they've got some good receivers, they have a decent running back, and I think Malcolm Brown will probably be a decent complement to that too.
Yeah, you
So like
can.
as a team,
They'd be able to at least recoup some of it.
yeah, but I feel like they would just like have to send so much that they kind of just stunt like that rebuild. Like I don't know fully. I know their defense is, which kind of an honorable mention. Waddle ended up being my sleeper, even though I just kind of grouped him with the receivers. But I believe that Miami defense is like pretty good too, though.
Hmm?
So,
Whatever I said, they can recoup some of it by trading Tua is what I mean. But the
oh
problem, I
yeah,
mean,
you would
you're
think,
not gonna get
yeah, you'd think
really
he'd have
anything
to
for
be,
him. But
yeah, you think too would have to be a part of that, and I don't know. I'm a little surprised by it, but I guess it depends on who it came from or whatever. Because I know that Brian Flores was being quoted as saying that they like to have players of like high character or something like that. So
yeah,
when Deshaun Watson's name come up and he's got these legal issues with these allegations, it's like, so is he interested? Is management the one just making the phone calls to see like, hey, what do you guys want? Like trying to just kind of sneak him out of there. Like it's a game of give and take, and I mean it doesn't seem like the Texans are ready to deal him in the first place. So I mean I guess it's not impossible, but I wouldn't expect it at this point.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, are you ready to move on to the worst one?
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
All right. New York Jets.
Jets.
They don't even have Le'Veon Bell anymore. There's like no entertainment value.
Honestly, I think that's better though.
Well,
I
I mean,
think
at
it's
least they
better
were
for them.
entertaining in some way, but
Were
I
they
mean,
though?
oh, kind of. It was
I think
funny to watch
it's
them get screwed over by Bell.
yeah, a little bit, yeah. I mean, I think it's better that they're just it's kind of clean slate again. Just like restart, it's like you're gonna
They're
get the draft picks. Just try it again.
gonna fuck it up again. But anyway, they in a move that made me sad because I like this guy. They picked up Corey Davis after his very solid year in Tennessee last year, and that's on an offense that doesn't pass very often, and he put up solid numbers opposite AJ Brown. The Jets are going to be behind a lot, so I guess
Probably,
Wilson's going
yeah.
to be forced to throw it, and I can't imagine that another receiver will be the number one other than Corey Davis. So there's that. I'll just start off the bat by saying Davis is the only person that I would draft on this team, but rules are rules. I got to go through some more.
I mean, hey, it's really about who's fantasy relevant. If you don't
And
think,
these
I mean,
guys are in some way like Michael Carter. He's a starting running back in a fantasy year that is very thin at starting running backs, so that counts for something.
yeah, at least the
He
potential.
he's I don't hate drafting him late and just keeping him on your bench. If he's even your flex guy, then you failed
Yeah,
at
you
your
definitely
draft.
you made a mistake
Yeah.
somewhere. Definitely go back, just undo that.
But having him on your team isn't bad. I mean, there's always potential with a starting running back in the NFL and a running back in the NHL.
That'd be an interesting setup.
I have Jamison Crowder as somewhat fantasy relevant. He might be a waiver wire pickup flex play, especially if any of the other receivers go down. I mean, it's all of a sudden like a crowded core on that offense. I mean, it's a mediocre one, but it's crowded with people of similar skill. Crowder can't really be trusted, but I don't know who's really going to take over for him at the moment, except for maybe Elijah Moore, who they're very high on, but rookie and a terrible offense that is being run by a rookie. And so I actually have two sleepers in Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore. Both have the talent. Nobody's denying that. Both have the capability, but this team sucks. It's really bad. Like they went 2-14 last year. That's probably their goal to get to 2-14 this year. That would be considered a win. I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
the Patriots got better. The Dolphins got better. The Bills are still great. That's a good division outside.
Oh
of
yeah,
the
they are
Jets.
definitely in a that division will do them zero favors.
I think they're going to be lucky to win one of the 6 matchups against.
Oh, within their division.
Within their division,
yes, I think that's very true. Yeah, I mean, at least you have the Patriots with. I'm not going to dive into them yet, but at least they also have a rookie quarterback, so there is at least like a chance. It's like, oh, okay, maybe he's not going to like totally perform, and they have a chance, but.
Like in my mind, Zach Wilson's better than Mac Jones, but as
I'd agree.
The media analysts, most specifically Colin Cowherd, always says, is it really matters where these players go? And Mac Jones went into the perfect situation for him. Zach Wilson, I mean, he's kind of a douche, so I guess he went into a good situation going to New York, but
I mean, he kind of looks like one, but
he is.
I don't really know like what his like persona is or anything. I don't even think I've seen any like interviews with him, so I don't know if he like actually seems like he is or not. But
I don't even really know what else to say. Who's their tight end? Like I don't even.
Well, they just traded Chris Herndon. Yeah, so I mean, I can check it because I was looking at their schedule.
Where did Herndon go?
He went to Minnesota. Wait,
no,
it was who just lost? Oh, what? I think it was
Minnesota did lose him, but I didn't think he went to Minnesota.
I can tell you right now, their current tight end is Tyler Kroft. I believe he used to
Yes,
play for the
of course.
Bengals. That name sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah,
But
Herndon did go to the Vikings. That's
yeah,
a
because it was Irv Smith that
I yeah, he
has
went
that
down.
season-ending surgery. It sounded like so.
Well, we already talked about the Vikings, but Herndon's an interesting pick because he has talent.
Yeah, I
He's just
mean,
been sidelined by injury and bad teams, and
yeah, I mean, it doesn't help when you're playing for the Jets, especially those last few seasons. I mean, I think you covered just about all the people you possibly could. I agree with the Carter one. He was a guy that I was kind of looking for later, and I wasn't like, it was the same thing where, yeah, if he ends up in your flex spot, you've absolutely made a mistake. But you can get him late enough that if you want to kind of risk it, at least if he, assuming he is at starting position there, or he's at least the early down back. I don't really know if he's much of a pass catcher or not, so not really sure for PPR if that is super beneficial. But if he ends up being a starting back in any offense, he's worth something at the very
well,
least.
I mean, you got to think about it though. And as much as we like to shit on Le'Veon Bell, he was good, like really
He was
good.
good. Yeah, the
And
team
he
was
didn't
just
put up great
terrible.
numbers on that in that offense with a
Yeah.
quarterback that I think is better than Zach Wilson with Sam Darnold. And
See,
they've gotten
I
no
don't know.
better on the offensive line.
I mean, you already know
It,
I'm a little higher on Zach Wilson. I just thought he kind of passed that eye test in the preseason games, and I'm not putting too much stock in it. Preseason games are pretty meaningless besides for what teams are basically trying to pick out their backup quarterbacks essentially and try out some of the guys who are probably going to get cut after a few weeks. But, for the most part, he looked the part. And yeah, he probably wasn't playing against the best defenses, but still, I mean, for the Jets, that's got to be a win in and of itself right there. They already got rid of, Darnold's already came and went. They tried it once, now they get a second shot. So maybe they actually picked the right guy this time, and it actually works out. But they're kind of, it's the same thing. I mean, young team though, quarterback, running back. You mentioned Elijah Moore at receiver. I mean, maybe Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder can do enough to help that rookie quarterback out, and they get more than what their 2 wins or whatever they had last season. Looking
yeah,
at the
it
schedule,
was-
I mean, I think they have potential for that. They get to play Houston once, so
Oh well, that'll be a
it'll be
battle. Oh
yeah. I'll
my
say it'll
god,
be
who's
in.
gonna watch that game?
We might
Even
just have
fantasy
to now.
fans aren't gonna watch it
It's
because
it's a little later in the season, so by then we'll have a much more clear idea of, especially those two teams kind of already being pegged as two of the worst in the league. I think at least the Jets have potential at the very least. I'm definitely content with saying Texans are probably the worst team. I'm fine with that, but they don't really have a very easy schedule beyond Texans though.
they don't.
It looks like they
They
have some pretty good defenses to play against.
the only potential wins I'm seeing is the Jags,
Yeah, I see Jags,
the
but
Texans, the
I
Falcons,
wouldn't be
maybe.
surprised they snagged one off like the Eagles, like late in the season, like
Yeah, I
that.
was
Like
gonna.
I could
Eagles
see
was another
that,
one.
but everyone else, and yeah, maybe they snag one, like you mentioned, from within their division. But if anyone, it's probably going to be against the Dolphins, would be my guess.
All right, why are we still talking about them?
I
Let's
don't
move
know.
on.
We can move on. Yeah.
We started getting way too
Yeah.
deep.
Right. You know what? Maybe
into
they
the
can
worst
break
team.
2 wins. What's the over under on 2.5 wins this year? Can someone pull that up? Can we get that?
They're so bad that we were stuck talking about them.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, we'll move on within the division here. So obviously the Patriots, the biggest news and the upside of us recording this one at this point is teams have already cut their rosters down to 53 players, and shockingly, Cam Newton has been cut by the Patriots. If you didn't know that, I'm not sure I don't know. Maybe you didn't draft yet. I don't know, but you should definitely know that by now. So obviously Mac Jones has locked up the starter role. Both of them looked really good in preseason, so I was a little shocked to see this. Cam looked pretty good, especially in their last game. But
Big
I mean,
neuter.
yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, they both looked really good, and you already kind of could tell it was going to be a tough decision. And whether at this point, I don't know if the vaccination stuff came into play or not. Most teams are saying stuff like that didn't come into play when it came to making their decision for who's going to be cut. But I kind of figured it would be Cam Newton, especially after the last preseason game. He looked really good. You have him play, almost do what the Dolphins did last season. Have Cam play like half the season. Let Mac Jones really take some of that in. Have him finish the season. I mean, Cam was only on a 1-year deal anyway, so it wasn't like he was about to be sticking around and essentially keeping Mac Jones from starting. But the Patriots said, you know what, the hell with that, and they straight up cut Newton. So yeah, they're obviously looking at Mac Jones. I think the biggest thing out of this, and the one thing I've been seeing most analysts and whatnot say, Damian Harris gets a pretty big boost here, especially from no more Cam Newton, because Cam ran the ball like he had 130 plus rushing attempts last season, which was, I believe, right around the same as Damian Harris. And then on top of that, Cam had 12 rushing touchdowns last year, and I can't imagine that most of those were long runs, so he's probably was stealing half of those from Damian Harris. And then, of course, Patriots also traded Sony Michel to the Rams, so once again, another avenue for Damian Harris to really take over. And on top of all that, Rex Burkhead is also gone. So if Damian Harris does not succeed this year, it's kind of on him. And I don't know how good that offensive line is, but I'd imagine with a rookie quarterback, it is going to be. I can't imagine that they're like the Bengals or something where they've just got or the Steelers even with like a terrible line. That they're going to let him get crushed out there. So I think Damian Harris should have a huge year. He's absolutely set up for it with them getting rid of a few running backs and essentially another running back in Cam Newton almost. He should be able to hopefully get a nice boost when it comes to touchdowns and overall volume for sure. Definitely don't have that kind of committee that they had last year where you never knew, who was going to be in there to take that last snap. Just, you're always watching games and then you're like, oh no, like they're bringing Sony Michel, damn it. And then, Harris is like your flex guy and you're just like, damn, I thought he was going to finally get one. But so this year is definitely the only thing he probably loses out to is they still have James White. So some of the receiving work will probably go to him. Harris only had 5 receptions on 7 targets last year. I would assume with all those other guys being gone, even if Harris gets a little bit of the work, you got to think he beats those numbers out for sure, but nothing too crazy when it comes to the receiving category for him there. Easily is a good flex guy this year. I think after Cam being cut in the trade and stuff, he probably is boosted up to maybe solid running back 2. I think he definitely has the upside, and in this offense, it might just come down to how well Mac Jones can play, and then how much volume Harris actually gets. But I don't see any reason why he couldn't get closer to the 200 mark this year, especially with him having only 137 last year rushing attempts. But I think he's a really good snag. Definitely a guy I wanted to get. But, now it's definitely amplified where if you kind of didn't roll not that people were rolling the dice on him before, but there were just obviously some drawbacks with certain guys on being on that roster. And now that like Cam and Sony Michel were gone, that definitely opens it up for him. And then my last one here is tight end. They went out and got Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, which is great for their football team, but just ruins the fantasy value for both of these guys. It looks like as of right now, Henry's first on the depth chart, but I can't imagine that, week to week, one of these guys is going to catch a touchdown and edge the other guy out probably. And it's not going to be fun drafting either one of them. I'd say stay away. Maybe grab Henry if you really want to, but there's probably some better options out there. But they're obviously going to slide in drafts just because of the dynamic that they're in. And I think Jonnu Smith is known more as a run blocker as well. So, and him coming from Tennessee, he wasn't seeing like those 100+ targets like some other tight ends normally had seen as well. So it just kind of depends on how they use both of them. They each have like some potential, but I would say stay away. You could definitely find some other options or just sift through at the end of the draft and grab one of those guys that slides or whatever. Tight ends are just so weird. Every single episode I think we talk about tight ends and how the difference in points is so minimal. When you're drafting tight end, unless you're getting one of the top guys, you could basically grab anyone or whoever you think has upside because it's just a crapshoot. Like any one of these guys could have a breakout season for all we know. Like you'd never be able to predict it. It's crazy.
Yeah, with the tight ends, you have the big 3, and then I would say this year Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, and Pitts are kind of like the next
Yeah.
Little mini tier, and then after that, it's just
Yeah.
whatever the hell you want.
I do have a
Yep.
stat actually for this. There was a less than 10-point difference last year between tight ends 8 through 16, which both of these guys finished within. Henry was tight end 12, and Smith finishes as the tight end 16. But you're looking at a literal 10-point difference between tight end 8 and 16 last year. So
I just worry about Henry's health, and it's already
that
becoming
too,
an
yeah.
issue.
I mean,
So
I feel like
the
that's with a
guy's
guy like
always
him. Yeah, it's
guy's
like always
always
an
injured.
issue. For some reason, it always is. I mean, that's the upside is as New England as a football team, if one of those guys goes down, you have the second one. And in this case, if Henry does kind of keep up those injury issues, I mean, Smith should be in that case, go grab Smith off waivers, probably be a decent pickup, and especially with Mac Jones throwing, if he can keep up some of that good stuff he saw in the preseason, then he probably got boosted as well by Cam being gone. So the last,
I actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I've almost forgot the sleeper here real quick, but sleepers: Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar. Neither one. Yeah, I'll say neither one's like really a great pick, but Myers did lead their receiving core last year, and same kind of goes for Aguilar last year when he was with the Raiders. Both of them are decent players. And then you also have N'Keal Harry there as well. So it's kind of a crapshoot when it comes to their receivers as well. And I think once again, they kind of get a boost having Mac Jones instead of Cam, because Mac Jones, I don't believe, is much of a runner. So you could probably grab all of these guys deep in your drafts. But yeah, probably look for waivers, same thing. I think Myers is probably the best bet. But Aguilar has like kind of proved that he can be like a okay like flex guy every once in a while. But you're probably gonna have to look for some better defensive matchups as well.
So when it comes to Damian Harris, yeah, he definitely gets that bump, but New England never plays with like one dominant back. They still have James White, who you mentioned, and that's an issue because he is basically a receiver, but he lines up and takes Damian's spot on the field. And then also, I'm looking at his name now, Ramondre Stevenson has emerged this preseason.
He did look pretty good in the preseason
as a solid player, and I mean this has happened. Like it happened with Sony Michel, happened with Damian Harris. Belichick likes the young guy who's proven himself in the preseason to come in there, and I mean I think that Cam being gone boosts Harris's value, but I think that his maximum ceiling this year is as an RB2, and I don't think he's gonna get there. But I think he'd be a solid flex play.
As much as I think Stevenson may have looked pretty good in preseason, definitely wasn't playing against those top defenses. And of course, it's still only a handful of games. And I think you're not completely off the mark where I think it could end up in the same situation where even though they shipped out guys like Burkhead, Sony Michel, and Cam Newton, which just frees up a bunch of rushing attempts, especially I think Newton and Harris both had the exact same 137 rushing attempts last season. So also Harris did that in 10 games, but I think Harris should be their top guy, and yeah, maybe Stevenson chips away a little bit, and I think without a doubt, James White's going to get the receiving work, but I think Harris, like even though I don't know that they're going to trust Stevenson enough after just seeing him in the preseason, so I think Harris should. I think he can break out of that RB2. Like I think he can have some real upside, but it's definitely risky until we actually see some gameplay here.
Yeah, their team's interesting. I actually like Jonnu Smith, mainly because of Hunter Henry's injury problems and with Mac Jones being in quarterback. But also, Patriots have run the 2 tight end set in the past successfully when Gronk was there. And, I mean, you have a quarterback who's not very mobile, so similar to Tom Brady, pretty accurate, good arm. I could see it working with both of them. Both Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith succeeding. I flip what you said. In my opinion, I would go Jonnu Smith. I wouldn't go either of them. But if I had to choose one, I would pick Jonnu Smith. And actually, I don't I don't hate him as like if you didn't get one of the top guys, I wouldn't take him as your guy. But if you can snag him late,
Yo,
since
yeah,
if you
yeah. If
don't
you
get one of
can,
the top guys, you're just
yeah.
maybe
If
he'll
you
do well.
grab one of these guys as a second tight end, that's not a problem. And I don't have their. I'm gonna look up the ADP now that I'm talking about it because I'm more curious as to where they're actually going. But I think they're going deep enough that you're not putting that much into it. So even if you grab one of them, and like I said, not as your starting tight end, then you're not losing too much. Yeah, Jonnu Smith near a 120 right now. Where is Hunter Henry? Hunter Henry's actually going. Oh, is he injured?
Yeah.
163. So if you wanted to, if you wanted to go with Henry and you think he's going to be better and he lives through the season, then you can get him even deeper. But
Yeah, in the league that we talk about most often, Steve got him at
mm,
pick 127, and he has Kyle Pitts at number one. So it's
yeah,
not a bad
yeah,
pickup
I think
because Pitts is going to
there's
most likely do well, but there's always the chance with a rookie tight end.
yeah, I think there's definitely some other options, even guys who are like deeper sleepers that I wouldn't be opposed to like having compared to these two guys. But because you neither one of them you're really spending too much capital on, it's not too bad if as long as you're not they're not your tight end ones.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean the team it's interesting. It's kind of boring like the Jets, but they have at least some players that can get some stuff done. I don't trust Mac Jones as a relevant quarterback yet. I saw in that league Matt Davis picked up
yeah, I did
Mac
see
Jones
that.
already.
I mean,
Interesting
he's a
choice, but
starting
he does
quarterback, so I mean
yeah,
that's you got that
and
going for him now.
and he has Fitzpatrick as his current one, so it's not like
Yeah,
yeah, he
yeah,
kind
that
of needs a
was
backup. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
it'll be interesting,
Yeah,
but
I definitely was a little shocked with the. I thought for sure they'd start. Like I said, they both look good in preseason, but I thought for sure Cam would stick around. And like I said, he was on a 1 year deal. Like obviously, Mac Jones being drafted at 15 was clearly what they were gonna move to, unless he had like a terrible preseason or really fail. I
you,
guess now he could like fail out of the gate, and they have to change it up. But I thought for sure Newton would hang around for a minute and they just have Jones watch for like literally like I said, do what Miami did, have him watch for like half the season, and then stick him in there when he's got like some of that extra information and
I,
especially within that division can see some of those defenses and then go from there. But
I I like to I like to think that um Belichick just kind of knew that within week 2, 3, maybe 4, Jones would be the guy. And the reason why Cam went to New England in the first place last year was because he didn't want to be a backup.
that's true,
And
yeah,
and
and
I, I know
that could
Belichick
have
has a lot of respect for Cam, so he probably gave him.
yeah
It
that
wouldn't
easily
surprise me if
could
he
play
gave him the
into it.
option and
Yeah,
said either you're going to be a backup most likely in a few weeks, or we can release you. And
yeah, that's not that I wouldn't be too surprised by that either. I guess the question is now what team would actually want to sign him.
I think he should go into the
Where's
media for like a year, and then if he wants to keep playing, I mean, anybody would sign him.
yeah.
Even at this point, when everybody has like their broadcasting teams together, he would immediately have more charisma than every person in the Monday Night Football booth.
That's possible. I could
But
see him on those halftime shows. I could see it.
all right, so the not really arguably the best team in this division. I kind of hate the Buffalo Bills who we're talking about. I kind of hate that I actually don't hate the Bills anymore, and that's mainly because of their top guys like Josh Allen. I mean, he's a great story. He didn't go to like a top tier college. He wasn't rated as high as others in the draft, and he has grown every single year to become a top 5 quarterback in the league. Not even just from a fantasy perspective, but a real life results perspective. He has power, he has accuracy, he has athleticism. And I'd still say that in fantasy, I would get him a round or two after Mahomes, because with Mahomes, you have 3 years of just domination. So it's pretty much a lock that you're going to get a top 5 quarterback by drafting Mahomes. Allen did well and then had that fantastic year last year. There's bound to be some regression. I still see him finishing as a top 3 quarterback. Where he'll be in that top 3, I don't know, but barring an injury to either him or Stephon Diggs, he's going to finish in the top 3. And that brings me to the second guy, Stephon Diggs. I loved Diggs in Minnesota when he was there, and I thought if he was just given a chance to be a number one wide receiver, then he would destroy it. And look what happened when he was able to be a wide receiver one and he didn't have Kirk Cousins throwing to him. He goes crazy. I don't think that really surprised anybody. And yeah, big shock that Kirk Cousins was choosing to pass it to the white guy. But
oh boy, oh boy. I think at this point, Kirk Cousins will be lucky to play out this whole season, dude.
Yeah, but I don't know if Diggs. I think it's the same thing as Allen. He's bound to have some regression. Last year was fantastic, but he'll be a wide receiver one for sure, and I would take him third or fourth off the board behind Adams and Hill, and maybe behind Hopkins. I have Singletary as my third guy. I'm going with him over Moss for the whole season. I don't know what'll happen right off the rip. There was a lot of stories last year that he wasn't prepared for the year because of the lack of an offseason and lack of a preseason. He did well the year before. The team likes him. The management likes him. I think he's going to be ready this year, and I think he's going to show it. I would say the start of the season will either be a 60-40 Moss or like a 50-50, but I do think that Moss will regress and just be kind of mediocre. I wouldn't draft either of them, but if I did, I would wait until late and grab Singletary. Do you know the ADP of Moss? I know.
Yeah, 119.
And then Singletary?
It is, I just had it, 145.
Yeah, I would rather wait for Singletary because you can, I mean, at that number, you could probably grab him off the waiver wire at the end of the draft if you want to trade anybody out.
If you want, you can actually, J.K. Dobbins still being drafted before Moss at 115, and then Moss's was 119. So I'm sure those numbers aren't exactly indicative of the recent injury, but J.K. Dobbins clearly fell down the draft board. He's just not, just not off it. Yeah. That was funny seeing the IR right above like Zach Moss, James Conner, Rojo's down there below him. It's just funny to see that. But
yeah, I think it'll be mostly a committee, but if I was going to bank on one of them, it'd be Singletary. My sleeper is actually Emmanuel Sanders. He shows every year that he can at least still play. With John Brown gone and with Beasley being a fucking moron, he's my fuck that guy. Fuck you, Cole Beasley.
Yeah. There we go.
Sanders has the opportunity to be the number 2 guy. All it's going to take is the team finally just losing it on Beasley and just cutting him, or him getting COVID, or just exposing himself to COVID and being out for a few weeks. Sanders has all the opportunity in the world right now to reclaim being a wide receiver 2. And then I think he'll far outperform his ADP because I don't know his ADP, but I'm going to guess it's in the 200s.
So I'm pretty sure he's one of those guys. I'm not looking it up at the moment, but I know for a fact that his ADP is like insanely high like that because unfortunately in our 12-man league, when with us cutting those spots, Sanders is a guy that in mocks I was grabbing in my last few picks because I think he's going to absolutely he will easily outperform his ADP. I don't think there's really a doubt in that unless he gets injured or for some reason they keep throwing the ball to Cole Beasley. I mean, regardless of the COVID stuff, he seems to have like an injury every season every season anyway. So he's gonna have a knee issue. He's gonna have like some other shit that like just keeps him off the field. Whether he's he might say he played the full season or whatever, but half the time he's like seems like he's hobbled anyways. So and then the COVID, not getting the vaccine on top of that. I mean, that's just stupid. But I think that for most guys who haven't got it. And I think that goes for some of their other receivers too. So was it Isaiah McKenzie? Was he also one of the guys that recently? I think he actually got the vaccine after he got sent home for like whatever reason that they like saw. So I mean, hey, at least I guess it worked in a way for him where he got his first shot. But yeah, I think Diggs is crazy good. I think Sanders should absolutely be their wide receiver too, and he's a guy that I wanted to grab very badly in that 12-man league, but literally don't have the roster space for it.
There's too many good players.
With us cutting those slots, I was like, wait a second, why does this seem different? Like we're literally at the end of the draft. I search them and I'm like, wait, why do I only have like so many slots left here. I'm like, wait, what the hell? And I was like, ah, oh, damn.
Yeah,
Like
like
that was a guy that I like legit wanted, and I knew that most people definitely weren't going to draft him because they're not going to see him. You have to scroll so far to find him without
yeah,
searching that people aren't going to realize that he's not playing for like New Orleans probably.
yeah. My like my guys that are on my bench, like since it's such a small league, I wouldn't like. I would rather have Jamar Chase. I'd rather have Marquez
Yeah.
Callaway. I'd rather have Pittman. I'd rather have Claypool. But then there's two guys like James Conner and Philip Lindsay. I'd rather probably have Sanders, well, than Lindsay, maybe not James Conner, but I need running back depth of some kind,
Yeah,
so I
yeah, you
have
can
to
only
have
split
to
it
hold
up.
on.
Yeah, you can only
Yeah.
split it up so much, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I realized that during the draft, I was like a little disappointed because like there was a few guys like that I was looking for late, and Sanders was like my number one to like snag because I was like, oh, he's gonna have a good season. I can feel it. Like Josh Allen's gonna be good. Diggs will still be the number one for sure. Beasley, yeah, vaccine injury just won't play anyways. I mean, I think there's a chance that maybe I was Isaiah McKenzie and Gabriel Davis, I think. Both of those are always guys who are kind of like, you always hear the buzz in like the offseason
Yeah.
and stuff, but then they haven't really done too much, so I'm not like super worried about that. I mean, they could easily kind of steal that spot from Beasley or Sanders as well as like the 2 or 3 receiver if they have a few good weeks. I mean, stuff like that always gets shuffled around. But yeah, I was definitely disappointed I couldn't grab Sanders. And hey, for all we know, like I'll after week 1, I'll hate like half my team or something, and I'll swap them out anyways if no one else does, and I'll get my guy eventually. But yeah, that was definitely a guy that I think is definitely in a good situation there, with a good quarterback. And I don't really, to be honest, I don't know who to grab at running back there. I don't know.
That's why I choose you.
Yeah, I don't recall either one of them being fantasy relevant last year, like almost at all. And I would, if I had to take a guess, they're probably gonna do the same thing again. And you see them mostly split carries until one of them gets hot, which is literally just scratching off a lottery ticket or something. So, I don't even know.
Well, kind of off topic, but I'm looking at most of my bench players and like flex, and they are all like they could either go off. They're extreme boom or bust. It's like Chase
Yeah.
Claypool, Jamar Chase, Marquez Callaway, Michael Pittman Jr. They could all be wide
Yeah.
receiver twos after a couple weeks, and they could all be waiver wire pickups after a couple weeks. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
But
I don't even think it's raining
well,
over here right now.
one
But
one thing, this will be something we'll normally discuss. Like we'll probably release it Wednesdays or Thursday mornings before a week. But Josh Allen, one thing to worry about, and I wouldn't worry about drafting him because of this, but if you want to start off well, they do play the Steelers defense in week 1. Definitely just worth noting. I mean, I hate starting off the season with a loss. I still have Josh
Yeah.
Allen on one of my teams, and I'm going to play him, even though it's against the team that I love and a top 3 defense in the league. You can't not play a guy like him, but just keep that in mind that if you draft him, week 1 is going to be a tough one for your quarterback.
To be honest, not even just the Steelers, but they play the Dolphins week 2 and Washington week 3. You have like
Washington's a
3.
better defense than Steelers, I think.
Yeah, you have definitely like 3 tough defenses. I mean, I think those will all be pretty good games to watch. Like I am pretty high on. I wish maybe in a different universe, I spent most of my draft capital on like a Josh Allen. I think he is going to have like another really good season, and I think they're going to put up a good fight against all these teams. But that'll be 3 tough weeks to start their season. I think they obviously win their division again pretty much without question there. But yeah, those are definitely some tough matchups for sure. Definitely don't envy that. But I don't know. I'm a little worried for the Steelers week 1. I'm not gonna lie to you. That doesn't make me. I know people are saying that they're kind of.
If they win it though, set the tone. That's huge.
That is true, yeah. Because I know the idea is that the Bills have some COVID issues, and they're not going to be like a fully healthy, and so the Steelers might have not easy, but they're going to have a pretty good chance like week 1. But I don't know, dude. I think Allen and Diggs alone could get the job done. Steelers have a great defense, and I think they will obviously put up a good fight. But I'm worried for the Steelers.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, the secondary is pretty terrible right now.
Yeah. What
And
they only
then
took 4 cornerbacks into the on the 53-man roster as of
mm,
Tuesday.
yeah, and then you have I don't think they're done at corner. They're probably going to
Oh
grab
yeah,
somebody
you
else,
think for sure they'll bolster that, but
but then you also have TJ Watt who hasn't practiced.
yeah,
And I
they
don't think I
gotta.
mean he's kind of a freak of nature, so it probably won't matter, but it's definitely something to monitor.
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely worrying, but yeah.
this division's interesting. I mean, from a fantasy perspective, you have the Bills, decent but question marks from the Dolphins, a few players from the Patriots, and then the Jets are there.
Yeah. I think compared
And
to the last few seasons, at least the Jets, yeah, every year it was like, well, maybe they could, but I think now that they've moved on, the Darnold didn't work out. They tried Lev Bell, didn't work out. Yeah, I think they finally had that clean slate that now I feel like it's comfortable saying they actually have potential, but they might
I
take a few years still, though. We'll see.
I look forward. I'm just going to cut that last line out and just have you saying they have potential at the end of the year whenever they're 2-15 because there's
Oh.
17 games now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Hey, if they get the third win, dude, someone's gonna cash in over under bet on that. That'll be interesting. You got to think they got to be a third win in there somewhere. I think they can do
And
it.
I guess we'll find out. But so we're nearing the end of this series of division. What's the word I'm looking for?
Division previews or division,
Previews.
there you go.
That's the word. It's a tough one. So we have the AFC South, and that is yet another very exciting one.
Yeah.
It's a little better than this one in my opinion, but
I honestly I think it's about the same. You've
we saved the
two,
worst for last,
yeah.
I guess. But
You got a bad team, a good team, and two that could easily beat the shit out of each other and steal swap third and second and third.
yeah, and then after that, well, we'll go over this on the next episode, but after that, we'll just be doing weekly previews of the week, top pickups, top people to play, people who will probably bust from where they're being rated. But we'll go over that more next time. And thanks for listening. We'll hit you with the AFC South sometime next week.
Oh yeah.
All
See
right.
you guys.
See ya.